Okay, Jim. All right. Just simmer down, Jim. Come on. All right. Coronavirus is not a planned and propagated crisis situation meant to further enslave the masses, trample individual rights, conduct a massive and covert theft of the American people, wreck the economy, and transfer wealth to international bankers and their corporate and political buddies. All right? And whatever government and mainstream media says, you need to just believe them. They're 100% accurate 100% of the time. So just shut up, believe them, go out and get tested, and for God's sake, buy some more toilet paper.
In our very vigilant effort to combat and ultimately defeat the coronavirus, the
public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
Over the last several weeks, our nation has been faced with a grave and accelerating challenge, one that tests our compassion, ingenuity, and resolve, the coronavirus crisis.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
We've been working very hard on this. We've made tremendous progress. When you compare what we've done to other areas of the world, it's pretty incredible.
Sadly and prayerfully, we have learned of the tragic deaths of at least 41 Americans from this public health emergency so far.
And as you know, Europe was just designated as the hot spot right now, and we closed that border a while ago. So that was lucky, or through talent or through luck, call it whatever you want.
The American people expect and deserve a coordinated, science-based, and whole-of-government response to keep them and their loved ones safe.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
A response that puts families first to stimulate the economy.
But through a very collective action and shared sacrifice, national determination, we will overcome the threat of the virus.
To put families first, last week the House passed a strong bipartisan $8.3 billion emergency funding package of entirely new funds.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. 2 very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease.
$8.3 billion emergency funding package.
$50 billion.
We made a well-funded
$50 billion. $8.3 billion emergency funding package.
Will remove or eliminate every obstacle necessary to deliver our people the care that they need and that they're entitled to. No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever.
No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever.
$8.3 billion emergency funding package.
$50 billion.
Evidence-based investment in public health, in developing treatments and a vaccine available to all, in prevention, preparedness, and response measures, and helping state, local, tribal, and territorial hospitals and health systems, and in supporting impacted small businesses with SBA loans, and helping families by extending telemedicine services no matter where they live.
In furtherance of the order, I'm urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately. You're going to be hearing from some of the largest companies and greatest retailers and medical companies in the world. They're standing right behind me and aside of me.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
I'm also asking every hospital in this country to activate its emergency preparedness plan so that they can meet the needs of Americans everywhere. The hospitals are very engaged.
Democrats' swift action to pass this emergency funding was essential to our nation's long overdue response.
This includes the following critical authorities: the ability to waive laws to enable telehealth,
by extending telemedicine services no matter where they live.
A fairly new and incredible thing that's happened in the not so distant past. I tell you, what they've done with telehealth is incredible.
Senate Democratic leader Schumer and I, last weekend, called for further action to put families first. Today, we are passing a bill that does just that, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is focused directly on providing support for America's families, who must be our first priority.
10 days ago, I brought together the CEOs of commercial labs at the White House and directed them to immediately begin working on a solution to dramatically increase the availability of tests.
The three most important parts of this bill are testing, testing, testing.
And the second way is to increase the testing capacity. The more you test, the more positives you find, the more you can isolate, the more you reduce.
This legislation facilitates free coronavirus testing for everyone who needs a test.
Free coronavirus testing for everyone who needs a test.
We're announcing a new partnership with private sector to vastly increase and accelerate our capacity to test for the coronavirus.
The better you are at testing, the more you test, the more you can reduce the spread.
Dr. Redfield, will you commit to the CDC right now using that existing authority to pay for diagnostic testing free to every American, regardless of insurance?
We want to make sure that those who need a test can get a test very safely, quickly, and conveniently.
We can only defeat this outbreak if we have an accurate determination of its scale and scope so that we can pursue the precise science-based response that is necessary.
I've told you that we've been talking to the federal government about the federal government authorizing states to do testing.
Using federal emergency authorities, the FDA approved a new test.
If you go for a test now at a lab that is regulated by the state, we need obviously more testing capacity, and we need it quickly.
We therefore expect up to 500,000 additional tests will be available early next week.
I think you know at the beginning of this epidemic, HHS through CDC proactively developed an assay built on the existing flu surveillance system. That surveillance system was then converted to diagnostic system. But last Tuesday, seeing the spread of the virus around the globe, the President realized that our current approach to testing was inadequate to meet the needs of the American public. He asked for an entire overhaul of the testing approach.
Testing, testing, testing.
He immediately called the private sector laboratories to the White House, as noted, and charged them with developing a high-throughput quality platform that can meet the needs of the American public. We are grateful to LabCorp and Quest for taking up the charge immediately after the meeting, and within 72 hours bringing additional testing access, particularly to the outbreak areas of Washington State and California, and now across the country. We are also very grateful to the universities and large hospital systems that took up the charge to develop their own quality tests, made available by new FDA guidance. This has resulted in expanded testing across New York, California, Washington, Colorado, and you see sometimes those drive-through options that have been made available through these high-throughput options. Following the meeting last week, major commercial laboratory equipment and diagnostic companies took immediate action to adopt and develop new testing systems. Last night, the initial company, Roche, received FDA approval, moving from request to development to approval in record time.
To put families first, our legislation secures paid leave with 2 weeks of paid sick leave and family and medical leave for those affected by the virus. And for those who lose their jobs, we are strengthening unemployment insurance, a critical step to protect workers' economic security. Putting families first, our legislation protects our children, and particularly the tens of millions of little children who rely on the free or reduced price lunch they receive at school for their food security. As schools are being closed, these children will be deprived of their meals. Our bill takes aggressive action to strengthen food security initiatives, including student meals, as well as SNAP, seniors' meals, and food banks.
So we want to also announce this new approach to testing, which will start in the screening website up here, facilitated by Google, where clients and patients and people of interest can go, fill out a screening questionnaire, move down for symptoms or risk factors, yes. They would move down this and be told where the drive-through options would be for them to receive this test. The labs will then move to the high-throughput automated machines to be able to provide results in 24 to 36 hours. That is the intent of this approach. We have seen it work just in our own United States, and we want to bring this across the continent.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jay Butler, Deputy Director for Infectious Diseases at CDC. I'd like to talk to you about the new virus that causes the disease COVID-19. Older adults and people who have severe chronic medical conditions like heart, lung, or kidney disease or diabetes may be at higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19. If you are one of the people at increased risk for serious COVID-19 illness, it's especially important for you to take action to reduce the risk of getting COVID-19 now. The first thing you can do is take care of your own health. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol if soap and water are not available. Cover your coughs or sneezes with a tissue, or cough or sneeze into your elbow, not your hands. Avoid contact with people who are sick. Clean and disinfect surfaces in your home, such as counters, tabletops, and doorknobs to remove germs. Use household cleaning sprays or wipes according to the label instructions. The next thing you can do is make a plan for what to do if you do get sick. Know who will take care of you if your caregiver gets sick. Talk to your healthcare provider about getting extra necessary medications to have on hand. Get enough supplies too, including enough household items and groceries so you can stay home for a few weeks if you have to. The third thing you can do is pay attention to what's happening locally. If COVID-19 is spreading in your community, stay home as much as possible and avoid crowds. If you get sick with fever, cough, or shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider. If you develop warning signs, such as difficulty breathing, persistent pain or pressure in your chest, confusion, or blueness of the lips or face, these may be signs of serious illness. Call 911. For more information and the latest resources, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19 or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-232-4636.
و چیز شده اینجا برو کرونا شده آقای منم الان اینجا ببینید لیست میزنم هر چی درست مانم بیام محمد کرونا
اهل به شبهه انداختن که حرم علی ابن موسی رضا ذریح و اینا مرض کرونا گرفته، ایدز گرفته، هپاتیت مسخره کرد. من اومدم ذریح امام رضا رو لیست بزنم که ان شاءالله این مرض تو بدن من بره و شما با خیال راحت بیاین زیارت کنید. این مرض کرونا رو من خوردم. ان شاءالله شما بلند شید بیاین زیارت کنید. یکم عقیده همون صفر کنید. امام رضا دست دهن نکن حیدر. چیزم بهشون بده سرنگاه ارشاد.
Medicine? Nothing to eat. I'll meet you back here.
We now have almost 200 cases just here in the Netherlands. This is a small country with a relatively small population. Unfortunately, it's right next to France and Germany, which are very large and densely populated nations, which are overrun with sickness. They're having hundreds of new cases each day now. What's happened is that China is no longer the sole epicenter. Initially, it was just Wuhan. Then it moved from Wuhan to surrounding areas of China. You had 5 additional areas. And these, by the way, are all still epicenters. The Chinese just isn't, they're just not giving us proper totals. They're not testing most of the people who are sick. They're acting like it's endemic, so they're not bothering, and this is happening elsewhere as well. There are places in the world right now that are not testing for coronavirus specifically because the virus has taken hold with native transmission at a rate high enough so that it is now considered endemic and it's not important to bother testing because testing is meaningless. That's basically what's happening, and then they just treat it on a case-to-case symptomatic basis. The person's really sick, they get admitted. The person's not really sick, fuck it. We're going to treat it like it's no different from the common cold. This is happening in the U.S., under CDC guidelines, I believe, number one. It's happening definitely here in the Netherlands. It's happening elsewhere also. Unless a person has traveled recently to Italy or Iran or something, most parts of the world, you're not going to get tested even if you have symptoms.
Hey, collega's. Denken jullie dat wc-papier opgaat? Denk niet hoor. We hebben genoeg. Er is zoveel wc-papier, jongen. Echt. Zoveel wc-papier. Ik heb nog nooit zoveel papier gezien. Oh ja. Ja, wat ben jij hier allemaal aan het doen?
This is the checkout at Superstore. You gotta check this out. On Dougal Avenue. This is the checkout. The world's gone mad. Yeah, thumbs up. This is a checkout. No word of a lie. You gotta see this to believe it. See, everybody's honkering down here. It's unbelievable what I'm seeing here. There is no toilet paper, by the way. I got the last 2 rolls. Soap and water. This is a checkout line. And I just have to show this. This is in Canada. The checkout line. So Costco, you got shit on theirs. And I'm still walking. Everybody's waiting to check out. Look at. I had to film this because I can't believe what I'm watching here. And CBC should be checking this out. Okay, so now we're back around the back of the store. This is still the checkout line. There is no toilet paper. There is no water. Because I have it all. Hi, Anna. And this lineup keeps going. This is everybody's waiting to check out.
You want bread? Grab burgers for me too.
And it keeps going around the store. All the way around the store. Toilet paper?
I have not been tested for the coronavirus.
Has the president? Has the president been tested? He's been in contact with people who were in proximity to somebody who had the virus.
Let me be sure and get you an answer to that. I honestly don't know the answer to the question, but we'll refer that question and we will get you an answer from the White House physician very quickly.
And we'll continue all of these different actions. We have other things planned. We're going to also be working with companies that are affected financially. Our country is in the best financial shape. We've so different than in the past over the years. If you look at some of the real big crises we had, it was financial problems and different things. We now are in very, very strong financial shape with all of the trade and all of the other things that we've been doing. It's been pretty amazing. We hope the Federal Reserve will finally get on board and do what they should do, because we're doing things that they should be doing, frankly, and we can all do them together, but they should be much more proactive.
The goals of the banking industry, not just the Federal Reserve System, but the private banks in Germany and England, all over Italy, all over the world, they all work together. They're all central banks, and they're all part of the Communist Manifesto. You know, central banking is one of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto. We talk about America being a capitalistic country, but yet at the same time we have a central bank that plans everything for us, right? And the graduated income tax is another plank of the Communist Manifesto, right? So right there you have two major planks of the Communist Manifesto that have been brought in because of the Federal Reserve System, okay? So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything.
If you look at central banks yesterday, what they did, we want to see our Federal Reserve be much more proactive. It's important. But in the meantime, we're doing things that have been really well received. And I guess you saw that yesterday at the end of the day with what we've done. We have a lot of things to tell you in terms of respirators, in terms of all of the different things. The masks are being made by the millions and millions. We have plenty now, but we're ordering for the millions. We're ordering worst case scenario. We always say worst case scenario. And that's where we're going.
I know that Canadians will feel assured that I am the chair of the new Coronavirus Committee, and I am certain that as a country we can pull together so that we do not all die. In order to achieve this, I'm going to recommend that you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, never ever touch your face, and avoid cheap travel deals to Italy at this
is today's assessment that things will get worse and that this is 10 times deadlier than the flu?
I think it was high time that the WHO declared the pandemic, and we knew it was coming. Many of us epidemiologists knew the pandemic was already here. And the assessment that this is 10 times worse, that's actually a conservative estimate, because the mortality could be as low as 1% to as high as perhaps 3%, and maybe higher depending on if it overwhelms the healthcare system. Like Lombardy, Italy right now has an 8% mortality because their health system's overwhelmed. And this is why testing as quickly as you can, doing social distancing and containment of public events is really critical to make sure we don't hit those kind of really bad levels.
Are you concerned about our health system here in the United States and our hospitals being able to respond?
Yeah, I am concerned because the U.S. has actually a very, very low ranking in terms of hospital beds per capita. And as many of you know, if you ever try to get a hospital bed, it's really difficult, even in the best of times. Our hospital beds and ICU systems are not equipped for the volume of cases, considering that 1 in 5 individuals may need hospitalization and 1 in 20 would actually need potentially ICU. And in the States, with a lot of the healthcare inequalities, I'm really worried about that.
Are you thinking that we're likely to see infection rates in the U.S. rising to the level of Italy?
It depends. You know, U.S. is a big place. It may not be all exactly the same, and not all of Italy is the same, but I could see pockets of outbreaks in certain cities that overwhelms certain city hospitals if we do not flatten the curve, as we say, to delay the number of cases so that our healthcare system can actually handle it. But I do expect potentially we are about 3 or 4 weeks behind Italy if we don't do anything. And I'm really glad Washington State is doing the big containment of banning large events.
There's a patchwork of measures when it comes to social distancing. Some schools and businesses are closing, some are remaining open. Is it time for a more consistent approach?
Yeah, obviously it's a lot of times it's state by state, municipalities and school districts, but I do think we may have to do a much more quote-unquote draconian measures. For example, Washington State has banned a lot of bigger events over 250, but has not banned smaller events, and schools are still open for now. But Italy has gone to the lengths that they basically closed all businesses other than pharmacies and grocery stores. We're not there yet. Hopefully, if we contain fast enough, we won't have to get there. But this epidemic is definitely coming, and it might soon be a 50-state epidemic in the near future, unless we do something before containment.
Without leaving, because I know you're not going to just disappear, help out your successor. So tell us why now.
Well, I think I've had a great run, and it's been 10 years, and when I joined, I told everybody that I'd give it a 10-year crack. This is the 11th year, and so it's time.
This on IBM, the shares are up on news that Ginny Rometty's going to be stepping down as the CEO. I think it's April 6th that she will step down officially.
Breaking news we had for you earlier, Nike CEO Mark Parker stepping down from the company in January of 2020. Nike board member and the CEO of ServiceNow, John Donahoe, will replace Parker. Donahoe, also chairman of the board at PayPal, formerly the CEO of eBay. Mark Parker has been with Nike for 4 decades, been the CEO since 2006, so a nearly 14-year run coming to an end.
Bob Iger has just announced at the Walt Disney Company that he'll be stepping down as the chief executive officer. Bob Chapek, C-H-A-P-E-K, named as the chief executive officer at Disney. Iger will stay on, assuming a role of executive chairman through the year 2021. That's an after-hours quote, up 0.25% on Disney. So in the middle of everything else, we have one of the best-known corporate executives in America stepping down, and a change at the top at the Walt Disney Company is coming up.
Welcome back. Bit of bombshell news yesterday from one of the world's richest technology giants, Google's co-founder, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, immediately to step down as CEO and president, respectively, of the parent company, Alphabet. Now, they're still going to remain on the board, and they have still retaining majority voting power, but they are handing over the baton to current Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
This after the company announcing that its co-CEO, Keith Block, is stepping down. As a result, Mark Benioff will now be the sole CEO. Block was seen as a potential successor to Benioff. I would say he was seen as the only successor to Benioff He will stay on as an advisor.
We have this map that shows how the U.S. would be divided in the event of an emergency, if we can pull that up there. There it is. So this is how the U.S. will be divided into districts. You see 10 of them there. This is according to the National Emergency Center establishment.
It gives FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security jurisdiction over what goes on in these places during a time of emergency.
Satanic monument calling for the death of 95% of the world's population, reducing people down to 500 million people.
Well, now hold on a minute. There's already 6 billion people here. How do they propose to maintain humanity under 500 million?
What is being planned as you and I are on the air tonight, and what has been coming together into that old term, the perfect storm, is literally brewing right over our heads.
Looks to me like there's going to have to be a dramatic drop in population. That's exactly what the devil wants.
It is, and includes, military maneuvers in the United States, military actions that are forthcoming, and that will be so deep and so penetrating that the United States will never be the same.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.